Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. My name's Tom Fox. I'm from Market Invoice. And what I wanted to do was first of all, I think everyone can agree, it's been fantastic hearing everyone speak, and certainly everyone's probably enjoyed meeting the Inform team. So I suppose if we could just start with a gentle smattering of applause. So thank you for everyone for organising. So brilliant. Now, I'm here to talk about working capital and cash flow for your businesses. It's something that's been discussed a lot today, cash flow. How are you going to fund the business? How are you going to grow the business? And what I wanted to do was actually start with a video that was taken, it's about 2 minutes long, and this is a client of ours that is, actually it's not going to work, so that doesn't matter. How do you go back on these things? There we go. So there was a video which I'd love to share with you, and I'll discuss it with you instead. It's a firm, started off as a small firm. They came to us turning over actually under £100,000, and then gradually they come back to us again when they really had some a product that was men's grooming, and they started to export around Europe. Then they pushed into Asia. Then they pushed into the Americas. And they were getting stretched by their cash flow. Other countries have different methods or different ideas of what is a fair payment term. And ultimately, we helped fund them, and we helped them grow. And only recently, they've just taken on a multi-million-pound contract with one of the biggest airlines in the world that they're now funding. Now, they wouldn't have been able to do that if they didn't have cash in the business. And the video does touch a little bit on what we are, but obviously, as that went so well, I'll talk to you a bit more about it instead. So we are a sophisticated online trading platform enabling fast-growing businesses to free up their working capital. So essentially what we can do is boost cash flow within your business. All of you, if you're dealing business to business, you have clients that pay late, if they pay at all, and you have clients that pay very quickly. But a lot of the time you're going to have a big chunk of your money that's owed to you tied up in your sales ledger that you just can't have access to immediately. Now, that's made up of a couple of things. You've got a banking sector that doesn't want to lend to small businesses. If they do want to lend, it's at their terms, and you have to be this vanilla business that doesn't really exist anymore. You've got, and many of you may have experienced, overdrafts being reduced or pulled, or loans then not being offered. And of course, there are the traditional members of funding within the invoice finance sector. Some of you may be familiar with products like factoring and invoice discounting. But in the creative sector, where you're maybe doing consultative work, design, there's no tangible product. And the banking sector wants someone that manufactures some glasses. They can see, they can feel, they can touch the glasses. And your product sometimes can be a little bit more, they can't get their heads around where it is, what happens, how can they prove these debts are real. And obviously this combined with businesses just not paying quickly. We've heard cash flow so often today, and 41% of businesses, that is their biggest concern. It's how are they going to fund, that next big order? Is there so much cash tied up in the sales ledger that maybe you can't pay staff as quickly as you'd want to? And so we have a much more flexible solution for that. Now, how our platform works, it is familiar with, it sits within the invoice finance world. So essentially, you would become a client of ours, and you would upload an invoice onto the sales ledger. Now, this invoice's job has been completed, so you've completed your work, and you've put it's £10,000, and you'll want payment. Now, what we do is we advance up to 85% of the value of that invoice the very next day. Now, we're not a factoring company. We don't chase. We don't send statements on your behalf. We're simply just advancing the money. And that's through a sophisticated pool of investors. So we're talking high net worth individuals, pension funds, hedge funds, but equally the government as well will actually purchase 25% of your invoice because they want to get your business growing. They want to get the economy started. What happens then when your customer pays? They pay into a trust account in your name, so they're not paying Market Invoice, they're paying ABC Limited, and you get the remaining fee, the 15% in the example, less the investor fee, which is the money that's accrued for borrowing the invoice. Now, the businesses that use us they're high growth businesses. They're businesses that need cash because they're growing very quickly. They've got a lot of projects on. They need to get the cash in quickly. Now, we fund invoices, from £1,000 up to 1.5 million. Now, we can fund smaller, we can fund much larger, but that's, I'd say, generally our sweet spot is. And 80% of our clients have never used invoice finance. Now, that might be because they didn't want to sign a 12-month agreement. They didn't want to give someone every single invoice they raise to be chased. They might just want one invoice a year funded because they've come into, maybe the VAT quarter's come up and it's hit them a bit hard and they're not using Shan, so they haven't got up-to-date records. There you go. And they need the cash quickly. And as I mentioned, our buyers, we're talking about sophisticated investors. We're not talking about retail money. You or I cannot go and inject this money into the business. The government is involved and some of the biggest sort of equity houses and investors in the world. And so what we're looking for is our clients. We're really very wide across the market. So any type of business can use us. But we are a fintech company. We've grown through our use of technology. We are very sympathetic and understand the problems that creative businesses face because, like you say, you'll reach out to your bank and your bank will say, well, I can't give you a loan, I can't give you an overdraft. Why don't you speak to our invoice finance guys because they can get cash into the business. You speak to them and someone comes out and the underwriters don't understand that it's a design. Your idea is maybe consultative. You've gone in and explained how you can improve someone's product or service, but maybe there might be a report at the end and that they don't really see that as tangible and they worry that invoice won't be paid. And we can also fund, if any of you are involved in more subscription or license-based agreements, where you've managed to secure a long-term contract, let's say a 12-month contract where you're doing something for someone every month, we can actually look at funding the whole of that contract day one. So if you've got a £120,000 and your client will be paying you 10 grand every month, if maybe you could benefit with having a huge chunk of that now to invest in new equipment or IT or even staff, you can speak to us and look at generating that cash flow immediately. 30% of the invoices on our platform are for export, and I really mean export as in all over the world. We don't really have those typical hang-ups of the banks. Our customers grow. We're supported by the Growth Accelerator, Goldman Sachs 10,000, because these businesses come to us because they need to grow, and we can give them the cash to do that. And again, I mentioned, you're looking at a very secure platform where 25% of the invoices are funded by the UK government. Certain councils have got involved because they think the scheme, that they want to be lending money, they want businesses to grow. Manchester Council recently came to us. Now they are actually they've invested 6 million into the platform. Now they're actually contributing 25%. So if you're in Manchester, slightly out of jurisdiction here, but if you were in Manchester, the government's actually buying 50% of your invoice day one and giving you the cash to grow. In terms of export, for anyone that is exporting, I mean, we've put money out to South Africa, Kenya, Guatemala, all these places where some people will suddenly aren't comfortable. We really can fund anywhere in the world. So if you've got an opportunity to fund, but you're not comfortable about, would you be able to get this money in time? Do you know how to go about it? We can take some of that strain away from you. And in terms of us as a business, we've lent over £420 million in the last 4 years since our inception. I mentioned the government, and we are integrated with accounting softwares. Now, Xero in particular is a very strong link to us because the integration is seamless. You can choose invoices, pick and choose, come into the system, and it just makes it a completely paperless system as well, because we want you guys out there growing your business. We don't want you sort of fiddling around with sort of proof of deliveries and delivery notes, sort of getting all that information to us. And we are the most advanced, fastest growing invoice finance platform within the largest invoice finance sector in the UK, in the world. We're the largest peer-to-peer lender in Europe at the moment. So, we're experiencing huge growth because we're seeing creatives, we're seeing tech companies, we're seeing everyone there's this huge growth market, and we want you guys to continue to be part of it. Now, some of you, if people here aren't familiar with factoring and invoice discounting, this section might not be overly useful, but the people that have experienced the problems, this is really where we really do differentiate ourselves, because we don't want to be put in that bracket with some of these guys. I mentioned the contract. We have no contract. Use this as and when. If you have one invoice you want us to fund, one invoice a year, fine. You only pay when you use it. There are no sort of minimum service fees for the course of the agreement. It very much is sort of a pay-as-you-go kind of model. You don't have to put every invoice through us. You choose. There are no hidden fees, and in the slide coming up, I will show you the fees. They're fixed. They reduce with track record, but there are no disbursements. We don't charge you if you want. All the money's sent to you same day. There's no chaps fees. There's all of this nonsense that's bundled in, which makes it such an expensive facility with the banks and the independent providers. We're simply a breath of fresh air with that one. In terms of the process, we can actually come back to you with a decision within 24 hours. All you need to upload to us, and typically through Sian, because she'll have some of this information, 3 months bank statements, last filed accounts. We give you a credit decision. We will come back to you and say, ABC Limited, we will give you, or we will fund you to £100,000, £50,000, £75,000, whatever it is, within 24 hours. We want this to be particularly fast. There's no credit control. We're not bothering your clients. There's no monthly reporting. But equally, personal security. We're not asking for a personal guarantee. We only take debentures if the lender's over £400,000. So this isn't designed to sort of trap you in to use us. This is really just giving you the flexibility to use as and when. And these are this is what makes Market Invoice. This is what makes us different. We're unlike any funder in the UK, as we do offer this flexibility, the speed, the certainty of funding. All those invoices that are put on our platform, we've had over sort of 7,000 transactions, and our investors purchase those within a couple of seconds, because they're hungry to feed the economy. Transparency, you see everything before you pay. You upload an invoice, you're given exactly how much this is going to cost you. There's no hidden agenda, there's no extras sort of waiting around the corner. Complete transparency, and again, stress-free. Use us when you want, without any personal guarantees or any of those nasties. And as a Xero partner, like I say, you apply. It's all an online portal. So typically, Sian will introduce you. Now, if she's got the information, she can upload it. If you've got the information, you can upload it. But if you've got something like Xero, we plug straight in. That 15-minute application takes 2 minutes. It draws all the information in. When you go into your system, if you want to select one invoice or 10 invoices, you can go through your Xero platform and you will simply just go, that one, that one, that one, that one, and it's fired straight into the system. The integration is seamless, and we are huge admirers of what Xero can do for a business, because they do make everything so incredibly simple, which in turn makes our life incredibly simple. And I mentioned the pricing. It's very simple. So depending on your turnover will determine what percentage of the invoice we charge for the service. Now, the more you use us, it drops straight down. We like track record. We want to maintain a relationship with you guys, and obviously the more comfort we have that your customers are paying and your product is, they're not disputing everything every time, gives us an awful lot more comfort to fund you to higher limits, to fund sort of more debt for you. So in the instance, if you're turning over less than $500,000, it would start off at 2.99%, and that will drop very quickly to 1.69%, providing we build up track record. Again, looking at the price per pound in terms of other borrowing, we recently launched a study which was featured in the Financial Times with traditional invoice financiers. Now, their price per pound of borrowing, so every pound you borrowed would approximately cost around 6.4p. Borrowing with us, it came out at 2.6p, because there are no hidden charges. We're charging that 2.99% on one invoice, not your turnover. So it's very important to stress that element. And ultimately, the service you get is unparalleled. You will not find another funder in the UK that will give you a decision and get funding to you within 24 hours. Our quickest lend was £200,000, 90 minutes from initial application to payment out the door. Now, I'm not going to promise we can do that for anyone in here, but if you turned around and if there was an issue, if a supplier didn't pay, if you needed money to pay staff, you can simply look at your debtor book and say, right, I need 40 grand to pay this. You may have an opportunity to buy a competitor. You can look at your sales ledger and think, well, I've got 100, they want 60 grand, I can give them 50 grand out of my sales ledger today. You can use that money for whatever you want. We're just giving you the platform to use that money now as opposed to waiting 60, 90 days for someone to pay. And we have a 90% application rate. Now that's not to say we fund anyone. Like I say, we're very much funding growing businesses. If we try and stay away from the businesses that need cash to survive. You know, we want to fund growing businesses. We want to sell the story of Market Invoice to the public when they are looking at young entrepreneurial businesses that have suddenly sort of shot up. That's the space we're in. So we're not kind of involved in that lower end of the market. And I suppose, like I say, everything's online. We integrate incredibly well with Xero. I mean, we're looking at a couple of clients at the moment from very different situations for their cash requirement in different industry. But particularly today is very important to note that you guys within the tech, within anything creative, anything within the media, you do have a funder out there that as a fintech, sort of we started 4 years ago with two guys in a bedroom, trying to think of how we can support the economy in a way that the banks just aren't doing to 420 million out the door. So other than that, I haven't yet booked my train home back to London. So if anyone does want to come and speak to me and talk to me about how it works, how we can possibly help, my name's Tom. Please come and find me, and we'll see if we can help. Thanks very much.